Hello there, welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
The moment a bent cop accidentally drops a wrap of cocaine outside his child's primary school. Tonight, Andrew Talbot, the detective who fell from grace, is behind bars.
Andrew Talbot is a criminal. I think he abused the privileged position that he was in. He misrepresented his true intention and he abused the access to the property systems in order to further his criminal enterprise.
4 scouting trips, 4 lives lost. The families calling for an independent regulator to be appointed to make sure the scouts can keep young people safe.
Meet the manager, how England international Kevin Phillips found his way to the Fylde coast via Aston Villa, Birmingham, Sunderland, Watford, West Brom and a few more.
People on TikTok are asking why you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it's because I can't walk.
Seeing the funny side, the couple whose new book laughs in the face of disability.
And Storm Ashley is heading our way on Sunday. There'll be widespread gales or severe gales, but Irish Sea coastlines will bear the brunt. More details coming up later in the programme.
Yes, all of that's still to come. But first, it seems hard to believe that a police detective with more than 20 years' experience tackling organised crime would do such a thing. But tonight, 54-year-old Andrew Talbot is behind bars for stealing drugs and selling them on the streets.
In the words of Greater Manchester Police, he not only abused his position of trust, he broke the oath he made as an officer to serve the public. Instead, he served a local drug dealer with cocaine.
Well, our reporter Anna Yosef was at the Crown Court in Liverpool to see Talbot jailed. And Anna, GMP say Talbot's actions caused untold damage to the force's reputation.
The lead investigating officer described it as one of the most shocking cases of police corruption uncovered by GMP. Andrew Talbot was a detective for GMP's Serious Crimes Division when he stole just under 4 kilograms of cocaine from the police evidence store. Cocaine which had been recovered in 2 police operations. But not only did he steal the drugs, he then went on to put them back on the streets of the city that he was entrusted to police. Talbot used police computer systems to search for known drug dealers to help him sell the cocaine, which he supplied between 2018 and 2020. He was only caught when he accidentally dropped a wrap of cocaine outside his daughter's primary school in February 2020. School staff had been made aware of the drugs on a footpath and found this footage on the school's CCTV system, which shows the small bag falling from Talbot's back pocket. After the incident at the school, he was arrested at work and more drugs were found on him. More of the cocaine was found following a search at his home. The court heard how Talbot had visited the property store more than 30 times, even though he didn't have a legitimate reason to do so. And he accepted he took as much of the drugs as he could fit into his pocket. The 54-year-old was found guilty of supplying Class A drugs and misconduct in public office and today was jailed for 19 years.
And Anna, is there any clue about why Talbot did what he did?
In court, we heard that he had a serious cocaine addiction to feed and was also fuelled by financial greed. This is what the senior investigating officer told me. I think Andrew Talbot is a criminal. I think he abused the privileged position that he was in. He misrepresented his true intention and he abused the access to the property systems in order to further his criminal enterprise. GMP will be hoping this conviction and lengthy sentence will go some way to repairing the serious damage this case has caused the force's reputation.
OK, Anna, thank you. And the last word on that story, we can also tell you that also jailed alongside Andrew Talbot today was this man, Keith Bretherton, who's 50 and from Lee. He was sentenced to 8.5 years after admitting drugs offences and conspiracy.
Next, when their parents sent them away on trips with their local scout groups, they thought they were leaving them in safe hands. But tonight we hear from 4 families whose loved ones didn't make it home alive.
With around 500,000 young people taking part in scouting activities each week, the families are joining calls for more to be done to prevent such tragedies striking again. Tim Scott reports.
4 families still grieving for their sons, all of whom died away from home on trips with the Scouts. Each family blames the Scouts for their deaths.
I trusted you and the son. I sent away my son to have a really good time, and it's your fault he never came back.
Patricia Craddock's son Lee died in 1995 after falling nearly 400 feet down a cave in Yorkshire. The Scouts had failed to complete a risk assessment and had taken more than the recommended number on the trip.
The group scout leader died 3 years after Lee, and we were told that if he hadn't died, our legal team told us after the court case that he would have been charged with corporate manslaughter.
Jane and Paul Saunders' son Jack died in 2017 at a scout camp near Preston. Jack, who had autism, had used a camping stove inside his tent and died from carbon monoxide poisoning. The Scouts had given Jack no instructions on how to use it. He lay dead for 5 days before his body was found.
We believe that under duty of care, somebody should have been checking on Jack. But unfortunately, they left him deceased or slowly dying for 5 days in his tent. We are giving them our children to look after. Our faith is in them, but it's not reciprocal.
Jackie Leonard's son Ben died on a scout trip 1 year after Jack falling off the Great Orme in North Wales. His inquest found neglect by the Scouts had contributed to his death. Sharon Collins' son Scott Fanning died in 1998 after he also fell to his death on a scout trip near Haywood. They and the other families here say a pattern has emerged which shows the Scouts have failed to learn lessons after each death and instead do their utmost to protect their reputation. What's it been like meeting the other families and hearing stories very similar to yours, I guess?
We believe as families we've been manipulated so that, as I said, their brand is protected.
They have their own protections in law. Parents have nobody really that can support them, so they don't know what potentially is the right thing or right way of going about things.
They will find somebody else to blame. It's the child's fault, it's somebody else's fault, it's never theirs.
The inability of the Scouts to be open and honest about what happened and tell us the facts about what happened to our children in those last hours of their lives. They have no corporate memory at all, have they? They're just forgotten children.
North Wales Police are investigating the Scouts for conspiracy to pervert the course of justice in relation to Ben Leonard's inquest. The families now want a public inquiry into how the Scouts are governed and want them independently regulated to prevent more deaths in the future. They also want other families whose children have been harmed in the care of the Scouts to come forward.
Yeah, the grief and anger of those families clear to see, and we thank them all for talking to us. Tim joins us now. What they're alleging is that, like so many other large organisations before them, the Scouts are trying to protect their own reputation before helping with anybody trying to inquire about what happened.
Yes, that's right, and they say that when things go wrong, the Scouts simply close ranks and protect themselves. Ben Leonard's family only got an apology from the Scouts in February this year at his inquest. That's a whole 6 years after Ben had died, and this came after the first 2 inquests into Ben's death had to be abandoned because the Scouts had failed to disclose documents to the coroner. In that report we heard from Lee Craddock's mother. The Scouts hadn't conducted a risk assessment on his fatal trip. They hadn't followed their own guidelines. That was over 20 years before Ben Leonard died, and the family say all this shows that the Scouts are not learning their lessons, and that's why they want now a public inquiry into how the Scouts are managed and for the Scouts to be independently regulated.
OK, and Tim, I mean, it's a difficult question, really, but are Scout trips safe? Do you think that parents and children should be worried?
Well, the families would say no, obviously. Why would they? But statistically, you know, the Scouts, their leaders and the children they take out, there's thousands of people who go out on these trips all the time without any problems. But as we've heard from the families, you know, questions remain just as to just how well organised these trips are and how safe they are. And as you've heard again, the families are now desperate to hear from other families who've children have also been hurt on these Scout trips. The families have now got the backing of Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham, who told us there needs to be a complete overhaul of the Scouts and how they operate and their culture. And in a statement today, the Scouts did get back to us in response to our report. They said keeping young people safe from harm is our #1 priority. We are committed to learning from each of these cases, and since the start of the year we've been making further changes to our approach to safety, including to our risk assessments, safety rules, training and enhancing the support we give our volunteers.
Tim, thanks very much for that.
On to more of the day's news now, and a head-on crash between a bus and a tram is causing major disruption in Manchester this evening. It happened in the city centre, and Piccadilly Gardens remains closed to all road traffic. 4 people were treated by paramedics, one of them serious injuries. People are advised to check the website of Transport for Greater Manchester before they travel and prepare for longer journey times. Manchester's expected to be busier than usual tonight as Peter Kay is performing at the AO Arena.
A £50,000 reward is being offered for information about the murder of a man in Greater Manchester almost 30 years ago. Paul McGrath, who was 34, was walking home after a night out in Ashton-under-Lyne in April 1997 when he was attacked and stabbed 18 times. Greater Manchester Police say they believe his attackers were searching for an acquaintance of Paul's. 2 men went on trial but were acquitted.
A man who harassed a Jewish family at a car boot sale has been jailed for 4 years. Robert Taylor, who's from Farnworth, walked behind a couple and their 2 children, making offensive comments referencing the Holocaust and the Nazis. Manchester Crown Court heard he also posted hundreds of far-right messages on social media.
A food bank in Cumbria is issuing a plea for donations to help sustain them through winter. Despite recent boosts from grants, Windermere and District Food Bank says it's a constant battle to source adequate funding. The area's MP, Tim Farron, says the number of local people telling him they need food banks has risen.
People who I know up until a few years ago were regular givers to food banks now feel they have to go to them themselves. I can think of individuals, I can think of families, and it's heartbreaking. And for them it feels crushing in terms of their dignity as well.
Harry Styles says the years he spent with his One Direction bandmate Liam Payne will forever remain among the most cherished years of his life, following the singer's death at 31. In a post on Instagram, Harry, who's from Holmes Chapel in Cheshire, said, "I will miss him always, my lovely friend." Liam died after falling from a balcony of a hotel in Argentina. And there is more on that story on the ITV Evening News at 6:30. Here's Charlene.
Liam Payne's final hours in Argentina are being pieced together. We'll bring you the latest from Buenos Aires as the singer's One Direction bandmates say goodbye in emotional tributes. We speak to the partner of Alice Webb, the mother of 5 who died after a liquid Brazilian butt lift. He tells us she'd be devastated to know that they're still being carried out. And a light show for the King and Queen as they touch down for their visit to Australia. Do join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Back here, it's time for sport now, and Pep Guardiola's been tight-lipped on links with England. Here's David.
Yes, the Manchester City boss had been heavily linked with the vacant manager's job. He was asked a number of times today whether he was one of the 10 candidates the Football Association had spoken to about taking over at England. He refused to answer, though. Instead, he kept saying it doesn't matter and congratulated Thomas Tuchel on his appointment. Well, Guardiola's contract runs out at the end of the season. He's yet to decide if he'll stay or go, but says he's under no pressure from the club.
I will not delay every action knowing that I am creating a problem in the club. If I feel there's a problem right now, I would take a decision as quick as possible. But I don't have that feeling because they understand me the reasons that I have. And that's why Wolves is the priority.
Yeah, City go to Wolves on Sunday, while tomorrow their neighbours Manchester United host Brentford with Erik ten Hag still in charge. The Dutchman has been under pressure, with United making their worst start to a Premier League season. But today he's hit back at all the media speculation surrounding his future.
Creating stories, creating fairy tales, making the noise, bringing lies, because I know we are on one page in this club. Internal in the club, it's quiet. Of course, we are discussing in the position where we are. We are unhappy with the position where we are. We are very convinced we will make it a success.
Liverpool boss Arne Slot admits it was good to have a mental break from football during the internationals.
Good in Holland is that I'm 99.9% sure that all the teams that play Champions League in the upcoming week don't play on a Sunday. And that is not something is common here in England. You just say you have so many good players, you get your results in Europe no matter what.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsors of the Granada Sport Report.
Well, next, the former Premier League star in charge at non-league filed. Former England, Sunderland and Blackpool striker Kevin Phillips won the Premier League's Golden Boot at the turn of the century. Now he's hoping to drag Fylde away from the foot of the National League and get fans dreaming of promotion. He's been speaking to Chris Hall.
Phillips, absolutely glorious.
Kevin, what's brought you to Fylde? Is this a club that should be dreaming of getting into the Football League, do you think?
You've got to dream, you've got to think big. The infrastructure's there for Football League, but that doesn't count for anything if we can't get it right on the pitch. So, it's a great opportunity to, come in and try and stamp my mark on things and try and improve things from the football side of it with the backing of the owner. Hopefully we'll have a right good go at it.
You say you're looking forward to putting your stamp on this team. What is your stamp? What is your style of play? What influence can you have on this team?
Scoring goals, entertaining, trying to entertain, but entertaining in a way that, defensively when we are attacking, we are in a good structure. I want people to go away and win, lose or draw to say I've enjoyed watching Fylde play today.
And it's Phillips again. And what a time to get a hat-trick.
You played under an Everton legend at Sunderland in Peter Reid. What did you learn from his management style?
Not to swear as much. Peter was a fantastic manager for me and a great guy and still is. Peter for me, a man manager, was second to none. It was the best that I had. He just always managed to get the best out of the players. I certainly learned an awful lot off of him, but also off the other 20 odd managers I played under. They've all got their own qualities, but I think it's important as a manager, you don't copy these people, you learn from them, but you have to have your own style.
Perhaps not as vocal at half-time if things aren't going well.
Yeah, correct. Unfortunately, the game's changed. You can't talk to players now the way that, Reedy used to talk to us. Listen, there's nothing wrong with a volley up the backside every now and then or a rollicking, which is needed. But everyone reacts in different ways nowadays, and I tend to think that talking calmly works a little bit better.
Now, there has been another fairly high-profile managerial appointment this week with Thomas Tuchel taking over the England job. As a young English manager, what do you think about that, about it going to an overseas coach?
Yeah, I think, listen, he's the best person available at this time. Of course, he's a winner. It's a shame, isn't it? Because, when you're a young coach, certainly coming through the system at the FA, you kind of think, will you ever get an opportunity to take that role? I would have liked to have seen an English manager get that job, that's for sure.
And for you, long term, do you see yourself eventually, maybe England, maybe a Premier League job? What do you think?
Steady on. You know, we've got a tough job on our hands here. It's a test of my managerial skills, and I've got to get the best out of these players, as simple as that. So I need to draw on, you know, my experience with the likes of Peter Reid and the other people. And, you know, I think in our world, you know, if you do well, you know, naturally people sit up and take notice. But at the minute, I'm totally concentrating on this job and hopefully being successful here.
Quite right. Well done. Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers.
Yeah, good luck to Kevin. Great to hear him talking about Peter Reid there as well, his former manager. And for all of Reid's success, do you know what? It still makes me laugh that he's probably most well known for the song Cheer Up Peter Reid, isn't it? I'm not going to sing it though, don't worry.
And we've had Peter Reid on the programme, and he's
legend.
sweetness and light.
He is wonderful.
David, thank you.
Now, you don't need to know a great deal about the world of social media, like me, to know that having almost 630,000 followers on TikTok is a lot.
It certainly is, and it's likely that the married couple, John and Jade Reynolds, will probably reach the million mark soon, thanks to their online antics.
Jade has used a wheelchair since she was 12, and the couple are on a mission to dispel some of the myths surrounding disability while also having a bit of fun.
They've now decided to go all old school and write a book together, and they came in to tell me all about it.
Yeah, I just told a funny story one day about one of my kids on Instagram to my friends and family, and it got a few more people DMing me saying this is funny. I put it on TikTok and it got about 30,000 views or so, and I was like, wow, like that was out of the blue. But it really took off when I told a story about our first date. I took Jade to the cinema and I hadn't properly researched if it was accessible, and it was a listed building, and so they didn't have a lift, and I had to tell a story about how I carried her up about 30 flights of, well, not 30 flights of stairs. I'm not that strong.
I would have been impressed then.
That was a real first date flex.
And now you've got a book,
We have.
Able to Laugh. And you are able to laugh, you really are, aren't you? I saw one of your social media posts recently that made a joke about the clamour for Oasis tickets that's happened recently.
Yeah, well, as basically Jade gets a carer to go free with her. So I was trying to work out if anyone wanted to buy us tickets so that they could tag along as her carer, and we could get the remaining disabled tickets.
Jade, part of what you're doing is to challenge all the stereotypes that surround people who are living in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
What sort of things do people say to you?
Most people are lovely. I'd say that they don't always know how to interact with someone with a disability. You get someone approaching you, and before they've even introduced themselves, they'll say, "So what happened?" And you're thinking, do I know you? Hello?
What's my name?
You know, that's almost the first thing that comes out of their mouth.
It's like accusatory. It's like, what have you done?
A few times I'm thinking, have I done something? And I didn't realise it. Sometimes people don't wait to ask the questions, they go straight in there. And so I think I always try to educate people a bit and just say, you know, why don't you follow that person's lead? If they start talking about their disability, then ask them.
It's such a great way to handle it, isn't it? Because people think that you're helpless or delicate, and you're tackling that head on.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a perception that John might be my carer, and that's just not the case at all. I mean,
you care for me probably more.
Definitely, definitely.
Because you have ADHD, John.
I have, yeah.
So Jade is looking after you as you are looking after her, as most couples should do.
Absolutely.
It's like any couple, isn't it, really?
And then you have 2 children to look after, and all of us know that 2 children are a handful.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is a bit of a perception of, can you be a good parent and have a disability? And that's just completely wrong. You know, I don't need working legs to be a good parent. You know, it's who I can be to my children. That is the most important thing.
What do you want this book to do most?
We want to bring a load of laughter. We want to inspire people. And I think we want to challenge some of the perceptions, I guess, on disability and just help people recognise that it happened when Jade was 12, completely out of the blue. It can happen to anyone at any point. And so I think it's just having that compassion and recognising that one of the biggest reasons we want people to laugh is because we want to remove the elephant in the room. We don't want people thinking, what can I say and what can't I say?
Now, this is a family show, so we have to keep it clean, but people ask you really quite inappropriate questions about your relationship in your marriage, don't they? How do you react to that?
Again, usually through humour, when people are like, how have you had kids if she's in a wheelchair? We'll just sort of say, well, Tell us how you do it and we'll tell you if it's any different.
You do it brilliantly. You do everything brilliantly, and it's great to see you, and we're really pleased that you came in to speak to us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
That's Able to Laugh, the book, little plug, and it is very funny and well worth the read.
Great idea, all power to them. OK, now, time for the weekend weather. Here's Tori.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Good evening. Well, what can I say? All eyes are on Sunday. Met Erin, the Irish Met Service, has now named the incoming low pressure as Storm Ashley. That's arriving through Sunday and it's going to last pretty much all day. Now, the worst of it will be across the northwestern part of Scotland, but still much of Scotland, Northern Ireland and through the Irish Sea, including the Isle of Man, will see gusts of wind of up to 60 or 70 miles an hour quite widely. So coastal regions particularly at risk from this storm coming in. There'll also be some pretty heavy rain as well, although that'll blow through fairly quickly. But it really is, even after the rain, the winds continue to intensify for a time. So it's going to be all day that we're potentially going to see those damaging winds right across the UK. But we are certainly not going to be left behind with that one, I'm afraid. So lots to come to end off the weekend. But back to the here and now. It's relatively quite quiet, a little bit gusty. The first part of the night brings a band of rather heavy rain, but again, it won't last long. The wind dies down and it all clears up by the early hours of the morning, so go to sleep and you'll probably miss most of it, to be honest. The start of the day tomorrow looks pretty good and it'll brighten up quickly with some really good spells of sunshine, one or two very well scattered showers, so just the outside chance, but on the whole, a lovely start to the weekend. Temperatures lifting up into the mid-teens, but it really is going to be the calm before the storm, because later, as we head into Saturday night and Sunday morning, so that wind will start to pick up, and as I've mentioned, we'll see that rain come through during the first half of Sunday before it slowly clears through the afternoon, but staying windy all the while.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Oh dear. Some of us have got a wedding to go to on Sunday.
You can wear wellies with your suit, can't you?
Yeah, I think so. Joe, Russ, I will bring my brolly with me.
I'm back with an update after news at 10. Until then, though, have a great evening. See you later. Bye-bye.